Hey guys, we're back. This time we're going to be taking a look at Spirit Island from Greater Than Games. And this one's a really interesting co-op where I consider it the opposite of Catan. In this, settlers are coming and taking over this island, building villages and cities, and basically tainting the land. And you play as the guardian spirits who are helping the natives who already live on the land basically push these guys away, drive them off, destroy their cities, and save the land. And it comes with a huge package of different spirits that you can play for. I think there's 8 in the main box here, and they have varying difficulty levels. And then there's a bunch of other things you can do to change things up and make it a little more easier or difficult for yourself. And it's just a really cool solo co-op game. And we're going to get right in and take a look. So first thing here we have our book, and it's pretty good size. It's the same size as the box, obviously, but nice and colorful, if I can get in here. You got a layout of all your different components. There's a basic breakdown of game setup, the layout of your board, and then this layout here is actually going to change. Is what they show if you're playing 2-player, 3-player, or 4-player. And they go through the different phases of play. It's pretty simple gameplay, I think. I really like it. They go over the fear, how things work here. But decent amount of examples, lots of pictures to show you examples of things. There's a section in here on how to streamline your play, basic strategies, which are nice, solo player mode. There's even a story section back here in the back, lore, and the maps. I'm not sure what's after that. And then some reference chart here, glossary in the back, and then of course a little cheat sheet for the different iconography in the game. Then we have all sorts of stuff in this box. I'm going to try to keep it on the screen here. First thing we have here are the tiles, and these have a really basic simplified version on one side. So you can see here you have the ocean with the boats. You have wetlands. There's 2 of those. I think there's 2 of each on a tile here. You have mountains, which are these regions here. You can see the spiky mountain. You have woodlands or forests. There's one there. There's one over here. You have 2 deserts. And then that's the same on each tile. They're just spread out differently in different ways. And then you also have existing settlements on here. These are the local natives. And then sometimes there's blight on there. On the flip side of these tiles, there's a more realistic looking map, which is kind of cool. Makes it a little harder to tell sections from sections, but at the same time, the overall map appearance is cooler. I think there may be more. I haven't used this side, but there may be more stuff to it too, I think. Maybe more difficult, because yeah, like there, that one's got all kinds of stuff right off the get-go. So, I'm not sure, like I said, I haven't used those sides, but I plan to. But as far as this side goes, they're very easy to understand and clear to see what's what. And then these kind of lock together. You can see they have little notches on them based on the way you're going to set up your board. These are going to piece together and they interlock like so. And yeah, neat board's odd shape. Takes some getting used to that. Next thing here, they don't come with any bags in here to put the tokens in. So once you start opening bags up and separating things, it kind of gets messy. Some of the things come pre in a bag. Like we have these neat plastic. These are blight tokens. They seem kind of cool. I like them. A lot of thought went into those. We have the, I think they're called the Dahar. They're the native people of the land. And they have these little huts. They kind of look like mushrooms. They're used to represent their villages on the map. And those are actually made of wood. So that's kind of neat. Next we have the invaders who are coming and settling here. And they have these single foot troop models, and I have to say I'm not really that impressed with these. They do the trick. I can't even get a good clear picture of them. But some kind of token would have been just as fine. They do the trick. There's a ton of them. They feel very fragile, and hopefully they're a softer plastic. I'm hoping not to break them, because that would be a shame. They are very, very thin and fragile guys. They do the trick though. Next we have the villages. And these are the villages of the invaders. Little houses. Again, not the best tokens in the world, but they do the trick. And then we have the cities. And these are basically just bigger versions of that. They tried to make these so that you can put them up when there's a city. You stand them on the map like this, and that's to represent there's a city. They take 3 points of damage to destroy, so you flip them on their side. One side shows 2 buildings here. That means they got hit once. You flip it over again, there's only 1 building on that side. That means they've been hit twice, and then the third would destroy them. They're kind of awkward in that they do work. You just got to really pay attention to them. There's alternate ways to keep track of the hit points on them, but it's an interesting concept they have there. Next we have our blight tokens. Or no, these are pure tokens. And these are what you're going to use to keep track of how afraid the invaders are. There's a certain amount of these per player, and after you get a certain amount of them, you get fewer cards that give you cool bonuses and things for the turn. There's a couple of these tokens that go with the various named invaders, which we'll get to. We have power tokens here. And these are the power you're going to generate to trigger your abilities and whatnot of your spirits. You have larger ones here with 3s on them. And then a smaller set with 1s. Then we have the various different player colors. I'm not going to get all these out because they're all the same. I'll open up one bag there to show you though. You get a bunch of these wooden discs that are used to keep track of your spirit's presence. They go on the player boards. They also go onto the map throughout the course of the game to mark the different areas that you have presence in. You also have these tokens, which are used to basically remind yourself of defense or other bonuses that you give to certain areas. With icon on the back there. The only complaint here is that they don't exactly match in color, and maybe it doesn't show up on camera as much as it does in person, but they are certainly odd colors, but it works for what it is. And that's it for the top layer of our tray here. The tray is pretty nice though. These are very thin and flimsy material, which I'm likely to replace. I saw a lot of people got these and they were destroyed in shipping. So It is kind of neat though because you can take this out and leave this right on the table with all those things in there. But like I said, they're very thin. I'm probably, you can see how flexible it is. Probably going to 3D print something for this. And then it'll be able to hold some of the expansions as well. Onto our lower tray here. We have cards here. We got action cards. So these are for the different players here. You have spirit actions, which tell you the different types of actions you can do, some of the iconography. On the back they have pieces explaining what each kind of piece is, what you get for destroying them, how much health they have, different targeting terms. And then the other ones here have the turn order, which is the different phases of a turn. And on the back, they have power and fear effects. So nice little reference cards. There's 4, I think, in there, 1 for each player. Then we go into these. I think these are different spirits, abilities. And there are 4 of these for each spirit. So the icons here, you're going to match up these images to the different spirits. And each one starts with 4. They're going to have a speed on here. You either have the bird, which means they are a fast ability. You have the turtle, which means they are a slow ability. Then you have your range. In this case, it's range 1 with, within range 1 of wherever you have presence. Targeting can be another player, anything. And then down here, it's the effects. Add this or this based on what they are. And there's some like this that does this. And if it does this, do that instead. You also have elemental icons on the sides here, which you're going to keep track of. And then you can trigger bigger abilities based on the number of those that you have. Up here is how much power it's going to cost to use the various abilities. And you're going to have 4 of those for each of the different spirit types. So probably going to have to space these out a little, because there are a bunch. And they're kind of themed to the different spirits that they pertain to. This is the ocean elemental, I think, or some kind of water elemental. Call of the depths, grasping tide, swallow the land dwellers, tidal boon. Those are kind of cool. And then there are 4 that also come with these progression cards. And these are basically for your first game or something, if you want to go use these. There is the major and minor powers, which we'll get to in a minute. And when you go up, basically when you start gaining new abilities, rather than randomly drawing and picking from those, you're going to go specifically get this ability here. And it basically gives you a progression chart as you go up. Those are completely optional. And then, of course, you still have the 4 normal cards for those. But the 4 of the easier spirits have those progression cards with them. There's another one. Shadows that flicker like flame. And again, they still have their 4 abilities. I'm not going to go through every ability because there is a ton of them. Like I said, 8 spirits in the main game. It would be cool to have these. I'm sure player made have ones for the other faction somewhere. It could be kind of a guideline on what you want to go through and get. And the last one here. Oops, I must have missed a card somewhere. That one only has 3. Oh, there it is. Still in the box. So there's the 4th one. So that is all of the different spirits. Next thing we have are the fear cards. These are going to be used to build a fear deck using these divider tokens, and they are stacked. I think it depends on the number of players. I'm not positive, but they go a couple, and then the tile, and then a couple more, and then the tile. So actually, they go under, and maybe a couple more, and then this tile goes on here, and then there's a couple more. I think I have them stacked the wrong way, but anyway, as you move these spear down, eventually at the end of the turn, they're going to trigger based on the current level of fear that you're at. Is what's going to happen, and these are going to change from game to game. So it's going to change things up and give you a little bit of variety on what pops up when and what happens. Also, as the fear moves, depending on the one of these that is shown, it is also going to affect the win conditions. So in the beginning of the game, you need to wipe all of the intruders off the map, all of them total. With this, you only have to get rid of the villages and cities. Once you get up to level 3, you only need to get rid of the cities. And if you get all the way up to where level 4 would be, you instantly win the game. There is a special tile here that goes with the invaders, based on, or settlers, I'm not sure what they're actually called, but based on what you're going to be playing against if you're using the named versions. And again, these little tokens go with those. Then we have these island health cards. There's two of them. They're the same, I think, on that side. On the back side, they're slightly different. And the abilities up there are different. Anyway, these are going to have a set amount of the blight tokens on there based on the player count. Throughout the course of the game, as blight spreads to the map and is removed from this card, put on the board, if this ever runs out, you flip these over. Once it's flipped over, it's never going to flip back over. And you put a certain amount on there again. And if you run out a second time on this side, then the players actually lose the game. There's also effects up here that are going to take place. So those are kind of neat. I believe there's a default on the player board without those, so you can play without them, but these add a little bit more to it. Next, we have these huge decks of major and minor powers. So throughout the course of the game, you can take a action that lets you draw from these, and you're going to draw 4 cards off these deck. You're going to look at them, choose one of them to keep, and add to your current hand of abilities. These are shared between all the players, so you always have your 4 unique cards that you start with, and then as the game progresses, you're going to build these up. Ideally, you want to get ones that have elements that can combine well with your spirit's special abilities, but also you want things that are going to be useful for the current board state. You look through, you're going to pick out what one you want, it's going to go into your hand. Whenever you do the minor ones, they just get added to your hand, and then from then on you have extra cards available to you. When you get into the major powers, these are way more powerful abilities, some huge stuff in here, and these are going to be the same. You're going to draw 4 cards off the top, you're going to look at them, you're going to choose one to keep, and you can see already they take way more power to trigger, but they give you much more powerful abilities in the end. The catch to these is that when you add a major power, you have to discard one of the cards that's currently in your either your hand or your graveyard, discard pile, whatever they call it. But you're going to lose an ability to gain one of these. It can be a major power or a minor power that you picked up before. It can be one of your starting powers, but either way, you're going to lose something in order to gain those. But they are more powerful cards. Next, we have the Explorer cards, and these are split up into 1s, 2s, and 3s. And you're going to have a set amount of these in your game, and these are going to go on the board here. Let me get that out. That's the next thing. But you're going to flip these over, and they're going to tell you where the invaders do their exploration, do their building, and do their ravaging as they're moving across the land. So in this case, it would affect all mountains. And then you would look into where, depending on which one it is, they would either explore, build, or ravage on the mountains. And then best way to show that is to actually get out the board here, which is the next piece. If I can. This folds out here. And up here is where you're going to have your fear stack. And as I said, the last one is a victory. So if you get all the way to the end, down here is your earned fear cards. You're going to slide the cards down to here as you earn them. You earn them by taking the fear tokens, which are going to be in this pool up here, and sliding them down to the generated spot. When all of the tokens are gone from the pool down here, you move a card, put the pile back up in the pool, and that keeps going. And then this will eventually, these tiles will flip over to here and change your victory condition, which is over here, to based on the terror level. This is where your blight card goes, and again, you have a default here, 5 per player. Doesn't have any special rules. This thing in the middle here tells you your phases and what goes on in each. This section down here is where you're going to put that deck of cards for the Explorer. The top card is going to be the Explorer. Then they're slowly going to slide over. So the Explorer card this turn will be the Build card next turn. The Build card this turn will be the Ravage card next turn. The Ravage card this turn will get discarded. And over here you discard your pure cards after they've been used at the end of the round. Where to put that? Next we have our nation cards here, and these are the different nations that can attack. So you have on the backs here where they are. You have Brandenburg, Prussia, the Kingdom of England, and the Kingdom of Sweden. And they have different things that are going to trigger throughout the course of the game based on the board states. I haven't actually played with those yet. We play just against the base intruders for now. We're still getting the hang of the game. And then there's also these scenarios. If you want to change things up a bit, you can play the different scenarios. Each one of them has some different rules changes and win conditions to them. Again, haven't done those yet. Still playing around with the base game ourselves. And then finally we have the player boards. And these are going to be each one individual based on the spirit that you're going to be playing. On the back side, they have a little bit about the spirits, how they set up, how they play, their complexity, so how difficult they are to play, and then what they're good at down here. So these are low complexity, and they're good at defense. Obviously, for giant stone elementals. Up here are your different options for growth. These are similar but slightly different on each of the different spirits. So you have to choose one of these categories each turn during your growth phase. So reclaim your cards allows you to pick up cards that you've played in previous turns. Add a presence within 2. Then you have a gain a power card. Add a presence where you already have another presence at range 0. This one's add a presence at range 1 and also gain 2 energy. And then down here, this is where all your little tokens are going to be throughout the course of the game. The first 2 are always uncovered, so you'll start off with those. The top one is how much energy you're going to gain each turn. The bottom one is how many cards you can play each turn. And as this goes up, you'll see you gain more energy. Eventually, you get the ability to play more cards. Energy is how you're going to do some of those powerful abilities. Being able to play multiple cards is how you're going to build up the elemental symbols, which give you bonuses on certain abilities, as well as your innate powers. Each of the spirits has an innate power down here, and based on the number of different elements you've generated on your turn, it's going to do different things and get stronger. These aren't actually spent, so if you have one of these, 2 of these, and 2 of these, you can trigger this and anything else that meets those same requirements. They don't actually get spent. So those are kind of neat. The artwork on these is awesome. I love the elements there. And of course, there's one of these for each of the different spirits for the 8 that are included in the base game here. And they have some amazing numbers, or numbers too. They have some amazing names on here too. The river surges in sunlight, ocean's hungry grasp, and each one of them is different. Each one of them has different innate powers. Each one of them has different ways that your tokens are going to work out here as you put them out onto the board. And it just adds a ton of variety and replayability since you can keep using different combos each time. And that's the empty tray at the bottom there. Not a bad tray, just enough room for everything to fit. Of course, sleeved cards are not going to fit back in here. So if you sleeve your cards, you're definitely going to have to come up with a different storage solution. This is that same really thin plastic, so I'm probably going to 3D print and insert and hopefully be able to get a couple expansions in the box as well. That is a look at everything that comes in the box for Spirit Island. I'm going to take a minute here and give you a quick overview on how the gameplay works, and then I'll come back and give you my final thoughts. And there we have everything set up quick for a two-player game. First thing you're going to do when you start, obviously, is flip this over. We have jungles there. We're going to explore on jungles. So to explore in our jungles, we're going to look at our coastlines here. Any places along the coastline, that's a jungle. So in this case right here, we're going to put an invader. Any place along this coastline, we've got a jungle there, we'll put one. Any place that contains a city or village that is a jungle, or is adjacent to a city or village that is a jungle. So over here we got a village here in the desert. Adjacent to that is this jungle. So we're going to get one there. And then on this side, we have a village in this jungle. So we're going to get one there. And that sets things up for our first turn. So we're going to start with our lightning swift strike over here. I kind of went with a very offensive spirit over here and a very defensive spirit over here to balance things out. So the first thing we do, and these can be done simultaneously by all players, is you have to choose one of your growth options. Reclaiming cards is something you want to do as little as possible, but of course on theirs, reclaim also is what gets you new power, so that kind of sucks. Ideally, you're going to look at the board state, what you want to do, where you want to go. For them in particular, we have our two starting, and this is described in the back of your board. We get two starting over here on the highest desert on their part of the board. The vital strength of the earth over here got two on their highest mountain, which is over here, and one on the highest forest jungle that is on their side of the map over there. So we look at what we have in our hand. So we're going to choose the abilities that we want to use, keeping in mind how much power we have here. We're going to gain one at the beginning of the round here, so we're not going to be able to do the 2 or 3 yet. We could do this one to gain extra energy. That way we could do those, which I think we may go with. Yeah, so we're going to go out pure offensive with these guys. And we're going to decide to do for our growth, we're going to pick this bottom one here, which adds a presence to the board and gains us 3 energy. We're going to add a presence from here. Well, let's see. Yeah, we're going to add a presence from this. You get to pick which row. Again, these bottom ones allow you to play more cards. The top ones will gain you more energy. So we're going to play this. It allows us to add it within one of where we already have presence. We're going to go out here to the wetlands, and then we're going to gain our 3 energy. Over here on these guys, it's a lot more complicated doing this two-handed because you've got to look through both and figure out what you want to do. And I think he wants to get himself some new powers. So we're going to add a presence to a location. We already have presence, so within range 0. So we're going to double up those guys. And then we are going to gain a new power. We're going to go for minor powers. So we're going to draw 4 cards here. And we're going to look through them. I'm going to do this off camera. I think of these, the one I like best here is the Pull Beneath the Hungry Earth. It is a slow speed, but our friend here has things that can boost these up. So we're going to take that. We're going to add that to our hand, and these ones get discarded. So we'll put them up there. Add that to our hand. And that moves on to the next phase. which is our gain energy phase. So both of us are going to gain energy equal to... Oh, I totally took that from the wrong spot. We're going to fix that real quick. Should have taken it from the left side. I don't know why I grabbed one from the right side, but do we want... I guess it really doesn't matter, so yep, we're going to leave her like that. So we're going to gain energy. So to gain energy, you're going to gain it equal to the highest revealed number you have on here. So you're going to gain 3. They're only going to gain 1. And then we go on to the choose and pay for powers. So on this guy's side, we can play up to 3 cards here because we have this uncovered. So we're going to do Lightning's Boon, Shatter the Homesteads, and the Harbinger of Lightning. Now you put these out in front of you, and then you're going to have to pay the costs on them. So we got a 1 here. I need to make change. And we're going to pay 2 for this one, and this one has a 0, so it leaves us 1 extra to keep around. And you want to lay those out and make sure that they're all paid for on here. On this side, I think we're going to play this one. So we're going to take our 3. That's going to take all 3 of those. Now we go through and resolve any of the abilities that are being used that have the bird icon, which means they're playing as fast. So we're going to look over here. The only ability that we played that has the bird icon is this one here, Lightning's Boon. You have the bird icon right there. Has a no range. Any character, target spirit can use up to 2 turtle powers or slow powers as if they were the fast this turn. That is a trade-off because I kind of want to use it on him. Trigger his ability early. You can take out a village before it damages the Johan. Although he can only use it once. If we use it on ourselves, then both of these will trigger. And this is probably going to be more in the long run. I can take out a village and an intruder with this. That's going to take out a village but save a Dahar. I think for this example, we're just going to use it on our rock guy over here. So that triggers that spell. We put this aside. You want to keep these out though, because you want to be able to check the elements that you gained to trigger off the innate powers here, which I don't think we did. We need 3 and 2. Actually, we did trigger that, so that's going to be good, though that works as a slow speed ability, so we have to keep that in mind. Over here, I don't think we came close. No, not with just the 1 card, so we're good on that. So yeah, we're going to make his ability into a fast ability, which means his ability is going to trigger. And his ability is Rituals of Destruction. Within range 1 of a spiritual site for us, that's any place where we have 2 presence on the same place, which both of our locations over here have 2 presence. Within range 1 of there has to be a Dahar there. We're going to do 2 damage. If there's at least 3 Dahar, we deal 3 damage and 2 fear. Well, there aren't any with 3 yet. They could have pushed some guys around and set that up better, but just trying to do a quick example here. So we're going to say within 1 space of either one of those is this group here. We're going to do 2 damage, which will destroy that village. Destroying a village causes 1 fear. And then that's going to go off to the side. That is it for our our fast abilities. Then we go on to the invader phase. If we were playing with the blighted island card here and it was on the flip side, this is when you would trigger the effect that's at the top of the card. We're not playing with the card right now, so there is no effect there, so we can skip over that. The next step would be to do our fear cards. So if we had used up all of our fear tokens here and generated any of these cards down to this point, this would be the time you'd reveal them and trigger them off. We haven't done that yet, so we're going to skip that step. We go on to our next step. And I messed up at the beginning here. After revealed that, it should have moved over 1, but not going to hurt anything here. But we're going to start on the left side to ravage. There is nothing ravaged on the first turn. Next thing we go over to is to build. We're going to build on jungle locations. So we're going to look at every location on the board in jungles, and we're going to build on them, which there's quite a few. So as we go around, we're going to start over here, and the way you build is you're going to add a village. If there's already a village there, and there's more villages than there are cities, in this case there is a village, there is no city, we're going to build a city there. Go to the next one. This one only has a invaders, so they are going to settle a village. And this one over here has an invader and a city, but no village, so they're going to build a village. And then this one has nothing, so they are going to build a village. Ideally, you want to pay attention. I should have looked at the fact that that was going to go over there. I should have tried to clear out the single invaders that were in the various jungles. That way it would prevent them from being able to build in that phase. Likewise, next turn, this is going to move down to ravage. So next turn, they're going to be ravaging on those jungles. So I'm going to want to do something to try to stop that from happening. And then finally, we're going to flip over a new explore card, and they're going to explore on sands. So we look along our coastline. There is no sand on this side. There is no sand on that side. This sand does border that village, so they will explore there. This sand over here does border a village, so we're going to explore there. This sand borders that one, and this sand borders that one. So you can see how the board gets populated very quickly. And then finally, we're going to advance these cards, like I forgot to do in the beginning, so that they're ready. So next turn, the jungles will be ravaged, the sands will be built on, and then we will reveal a new explore card. Next, we're going to move on to our slow abilities. So we're going to trigger off the abilities that were played that have a slow icon. So we've got this one here, Shattered Homesteads, which gives us a range 2 of a spiritual sight for our lightning spirits. Targets any type of land. It will cause 1 fear and destroy a village. So we're going to look. The spiritual sight we have is this. Anywhere within 2 is going to put us, this is probably where we want to go here. And we're going to destroy a village, which goes, cause 1 fear, and destroying a village also causes 1 fear. Actually, now that I think about that, we're going to do this a little bit different just because I've also got something else I wasn't thinking of. So instead of that one, from here, if we're going to go 1, 2, we're going to destroy this one over here. Same result, we get 1 fear from destroying the village, 1 fear from the card. Then we're going to go on to our next card here, which is Harbingers of the Lightning. And this is range 1 of anywhere you have a presence. Can target any land. We're going to push 2 Dahan. If you push any of them into a land with a village or city, we're going to cause an additional fear. So we can push 2. I think we want to... I want to push the 2 that I'm in, but then I'm going to take damage. I got time, so we're going to push these 2 into here. And in doing so, it is going to cause a fear. This is probably not the best play, but I'm just trying to show you how a few things work. Now, we used these elements over here. You can see we used 3 of the fire and 3 of the water. I think that's water. I don't know what the elements are specifically, but we used 3 of each of those. And on our cards here, if we use 3 of those and 2 of those, we get to destroy a village within range 1 of our spiritual sight. Which we are on our spiritual sight, range 1, we get to destroy this village. That will cause a fear. And it looks like that is going to end our phase here. During the end phase here is when these cards technically are going to go to your discard pile. So anything you used will go to the discard, off to the side. And you don't have access for those again until you do the reclaim cards ability and get your cards back. So you have to keep that in mind. It's kind of a hand management thing. Anything that was damaged throughout the course of the turn, in the case of Dahar, they'll be flipped over upside down. You're going to flip them right side up. Any of your buildings that were tipped over representing damage are also going to reset. So basically all damage is going to clear on the board. As well, if you had any of your tokens in play for defense or other reminders on the board, those are cleared at this time. And it's a section they call time passes. And that's going to end the turn. Basically, we're going to cycle back around to the spirit phase. We're going to pick our new abilities and go on from there. The only thing I didn't get to do in that turn was some combat to kind of show you how that works. So I'm going to do that real quick and skip ahead just because everything else is the same as what we already done. Each player is going to pick one of their 3 abilities for growth, do whatever the effects are, and then work with the cards that they have left in their hand. So in this case, we only have 1 card left in our hand as the lightning spirits here, because we played 3 last turn because we have this unlocked to play 3. So we only have 1 card to work with, so we have to keep that in mind. Generally, I would probably add a power to them. That way you still gain energy, you're going to gain your card, and you're going to get those cards back to do something with. So that's probably the best bet for them. On the other side over here, we've got plenty of cards in our hand. We need to generate some more energy so we can use them because these cards are generally more expensive. You can see we got a couple 3s and a couple 1s in there. Would probably add a presence to the board and gain energy. So on here, we would do our add a presence, and we're going to go probably over here to help. We want to help these guys? Yeah, I think we're going to help these guys. Now we're going to go over here to help these guys because they need some help over there. And then we would gain our 2 energy. We still only have the ability to play 1 card a turn, so I might want to, let's do it the other way here. Still going to be at 1, but next turn it'll go up to 2. So we'll do it that way. And on here, like I said, we're going to do this one, so it's gain 1 energy. Reclaim your cards, so your hand comes back, and then gain a power. And of those, I think we like this one here, the Dark Entangled Woods. It's a speed, it's a fast one, within range, any land. It causes 2 fear, but it also allows you to defend 3 on a specific land type. So we got mountains or jungles, which are nice because jungles are going to be ravaged this turn. So that's a cool one to pick up. These will go to the discard. And then we move on to gain energy phase. We're going to be gaining 3 over here. And we're going to be gaining 1 over there. And then that would continue on. I'm not going to play in more of the turn. I think you get the gist of that. We're going to look at a combat real quick. So if we got around to the point where we're ravaging the jungle, so in this case right here, we've got 1 intruder or invader, and we've got a city. Now the way these work is that the intruders do 1 point of damage. There's a nifty little cheat sheet to help you remember. So your explorer there does 1 point of damage. The city will do 3 points of damage. So they're going to do theirs first, which is a total of 4 points of damage, which kind of sucks because that's going to actually wipe out both of these. They take 2 points, 1 flipped it over, 2 remove it, and again 2 for that. It's going to wipe them out. Alternatively, if we only had the village there, or the city there, it would do 3 points. It's still going to wipe one out. It's going to flip the other one over, and then this is going to do 1 damage back, which would set that on its side to indicate there's 2 damage remaining. That's going to go through on all of these. So over here we have 2 damage from a town, 1 damage from an explorer is 3. So that's going to wipe one of these out, flip that one over, which leaves it remaining. If it's remaining, it's going to do damage back. And in this case, we're going to do 1 damage back. We could do 1 damage to the village, but it's still going to remain if we had a way to kill it later on. Or we could do 1 damage to the invader and remove them. Keep in mind, removing invaders just gets them off the board, but you don't really get anything for it. Removing villages and cities also generates that fear, which you want in the end. Any place where 2 or more damage is dealt, you're going to put a blight token from over here onto the land. So in our 2 examples, there's more out there because we didn't do all of them. It actually would have been all the jungles at this point, but just for the 2 that we used for example, we're going to put a blight on those. If there's already a blight there and you're going to put a second one, it's going to cascade and also moves into one of the adjacent regions as well. If a blight is ever placed on a location where you have a presence, that presence is destroyed. It's actually removed from the game. You don't get those back. If you ever run out of presence and you have none left on the board, the players lose. If you ever run out of blight on the board over here, in this case, we're not using a card, the players will lose. If you're using one of the cards, you'll flip the card over, do what it says on the back side, and then you have that blight step that's going to take effect every time during the invader phase. If you run out a second time on those cards, the players lose the game. The other way is if you ever get to this point where there are no cards left in this explore deck. If that happens, the players lose. There's a lot of ways to lose because it is a co-op game. On the winning side, as you move these tokens down here, eventually you're going to get all these tokens down here. Once they're all down there, you're going to move one of these fear cards here. And then that is going to trigger when you get down to the fear step of the invader phase. And then you're going to do the effects on the card based on the current terror level, which is labeled here. Starts out at 1. Your victory condition at 1 is basically to wipe all of the invaders off the island. You need to remove all the cities, all the villages, and all the invaders. As you go through this deck, eventually you're going to get to these tiles. When you get to this tile, you're going to move that tile over there, and now your victory conditions change. You're at terror level 2, so when any of these spear cards go off, you're going to start using the number 2 effect on them, as well as now the individual intruders no longer matter. You only need to wipe out these cities and the villages. And then if you keep going through, eventually you'll get to terror level 3. When terror level 3 comes up, you only need to destroy all of the cities to win. And then finally, if you can manage to get through a couple more fears, you get down to the victory, and it's an automatic victory. So if you can get through all 9 levels of the fear, you're instantly going to win. So there are multiple win conditions as well. The main thing about the game, though, is that it starts off super difficult. It looks like it's a unwinnable battle, and you're going downhill. But as the game progresses, as you get more and more of your presence tokens out on the battlefield, or the island, it's not really a battlefield, but you become stronger and stronger. You start generating 6, 7, 8 power per turn. Down here you can play 2, 3, 4 cards per turn. So you're getting 8 power, 4 cards you get to play every turn. You start gaining more of these major and minor powers that do very odds and end things. Those major powers do some massive amounts of damage. You can also combine and combo with the other players. Like in this case, he's mostly defense, he's mostly offense, but they can help each other, like the card we showed there that allows other players to use their abilities as if they were fast actions. A lot of his actions, because they're defensive, are slow. It allows you to trigger those off earlier in the turn to maybe help clear something out or do things. So combos like that you're looking for. And as the game progresses, you get progressively stronger. You have a bigger presence on the island. You're spread out. You have more influence over larger parts of the island. And the game does get progressively easier. So what at first seems like a unwinnable scenario, by the end suddenly it makes it out where it doesn't seem so hopeless. And I really like the way that works. I like the fact that everybody starts off with a couple unique powers to their ability and then builds up through these shared decks so you can really mix and match and build your characters how you want. And also, if you're playing your first couple games, you can use those guidance cards that allow you to pick specific power. So you just split through the deck till you find the one you want, and you add that to there. And that guides your growth and helps you build your character for your first few games. In the end, though, it's a lot of fun. And that's pretty much it for how a game of Spirit Island plays. I'm going to go in and right now and give you my final thoughts right here instead of cleaning this all up and starting over. If you can't tell just from my demeanor and the way I'm talking about it, I really enjoy the game. I love the fact that it plays just as good solo as it does multiplayer. I think you can play 4 player with the base. I think the expansion allows you to go up to 6. I know it adds extra players. I can't remember if it's 1 or 2. I think it's 2. But anyway, it plays just as good at any player count that I found. When you do get into higher player counts, though, it does get a little more complicated because the more players you have, then you're trying to say, well, I'm going to do this. I'm going to try to take care of this. I can get this guy if you can get that guy. Can you help me over here? The more players you have, the more complex those interactions get, and the harder it is to plan what you want to do and work together. I think 2 to 3 is probably the ideal limit for the game, at least for me. I do love it solo, though. You can't knock. This is probably one of the best games I have solo. Definitely in my top 5 as far as that goes. It's a very interesting, very simple designed game that has like limitless possibilities with the amount of different spirits you have. Can change things up just from game to game. The way the cards come up change the way the invaders are moving and how they react from game to game. The different peer cards that come up and the different orders will change how that affects the different powers that you get through the gaining your new powers will change things game to game. So there's like infinite variety in the different combos that can come up. Add to that the fact that there's multiple expansions, each adding more spirits, and I think a few new mechanics out there that are kind of interesting, and that adds even more to the game. Funny enough, though, you can play with just the base game, and I think you'll be perfectly happy with it, and it's going to last you a while with the 8 different playable characters. And again, everything else is random per game, so it's going to change things up. Even the board tiles, each are slightly different. So when you make, even if I play another 2 player game, if I take the other 2 tiles and I lay them out in the same configuration, you can see the island's still going to be different. All the locations are going to be different. The where the various jungles and sands are different. Where the villages are going to start, the blight's going to start, the cities are going to start, is all going to be different. And you can mix and match. There's 4 of those in here, and I think one of the expansions comes with more. So even that's going to change from game to game. I have to say, the only thing I really don't like about the game are the pieces they used for this. Everything else has a look and feel to it. These seem like they were like out of a different game. They were just left over and they kind of slapped them in here. They do the trick and they work, but I'm definitely going to look into upgrading those components. They do have a wooden token set you can buy to replace the cardboard shits with wooden, which matches everything else. Would have liked to have seen in the token set actual tokens for the spirits that were made to go with specific spirits. I also think they did it for colorblind reasons, I tell myself, but I think it's very odd when Earth is one of the main starting one components. I think there's 2 or 3 Earth-based spirits, and there's no green for spirit tokens. And I think a lot of games try to avoid red and green because of colorblind issues, but I thought that was kind of funny that they're not in the starter set. They might be in one of the expansions, but overall, yeah, I think in most, my biggest complaint is a nitpicky one about the components. The flipping these over to represent 2 and 1 and full health is kind of fiddly at best, but it's hard to remember. For me, at least, I always forget to flip them over. And the big one are the invaders themselves. Like I said, they don't even look like something out of this game. They look like something that was left over from another game. And honestly, that's the biggest gripe I have, and it's something nitpicky and fiddly. They do the trick. It doesn't matter. It's just a cosmetic thing. And everything else about the game, though, I enjoy, I like, and I can't wait to play it more. That is going to wrap it up for our look at Spirit Island from Greater Than Games. I hope it helps you decide if it is something you might be interested in. I'm definitely going to be picking up expansions to it and adding it to it. I played the game a long time ago, but I finally got my own copy, and that's what kind of sparked me to do the video. So stay tuned for videos on the various expansions as they come out. They even managed to put the promo packs that had come out over the years into a new expansion, which is coming out probably this summer or spring. And I'll be doing one on that as well. So stay tuned to the channel for those. Hope it helped you decide if it's a game you might be interested in. And as always, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.